Hello. Why am I like this? Because I just did my wrap my tefillin, put on my talit, have my tzitzit on, the kippah. I said a few prayers. I do this every day. It's a time for me to kind of center and talk to God on my own. As a Jew, we are not required to have an intermediary between us and God. We can speak to Him as we wish. Today, I want to speak about really quickly about mania and hypersexuality. I've seen a couple people mention this on Twitter, and there are people, and it's very common, that have very bad feelings about themselves because of this. Why am I still wearing this, by the way, while I'm talking about this? I wanted to make a point that the people who tell us what is and is not good and what we should and should not feel good about regarding ourselves, whether they be our parents, our teachers, or university professors, or psychiatrists, or theologians of any kind, or someone who claims to have some kind of knowledge of God or theological text, no matter which theology it may be, have no right to tell us how we should feel about ourselves, especially when we're challenged. And I don't say victims of or suffering from, but when we're challenged by mania or hypersexuality. Mania, for me personally, I love it. I run into problems with it when I have shikul dat in Hebrew, when I have compromised judgment. And I, for instance, might spend money I shouldn't spend. Money stops being a thing. People who understand this. There's an expression in Kabbalistic learning: he who understands. Money is no longer money. It's just this thing that can get you stuff. So, there's no problem with taking out your rent money and going to the store and buying a whole bunch of stuff or a whole bunch of food when you only need to buy one thing of food or whatever it is. Some people who have lots of money might spend $60,000 on a car when they don't need to, but I don't have a lot of money, so that's not a problem. Hypersexuality is similar to the shikul dat problem. Shikul dat, that's judgment, and ba'od b'shikul dat is problems in the judgment. So that's in Hebrew. So the problems, and we'll get to why I mentioned that in a second. The problems in hypersexuality, in judgment and hypersexuality, or hypersexuality which comes with mania. Men and women act differently, and forgive me for the friends that I've spoken to who don't identify as such, but my understanding of it right now is only in the quote-unquote binary. So men and women, as far as the research goes that I've read, act differently. Women are more prone to actually engage with partners during a period of hypersexuality, whether they're married, have boyfriends, significant other, girlfriend, whatever it is. That factor of I shouldn't cheat, or I don't have any urge to cheat, or I'm completely devoted and loyal, kind of goes out the window. Guys have it less, not that they wouldn't do it, but it's easier for women to achieve that than it is for men to achieve it. I've read a lot of research on this. This is pretty much what the research says. So men will tend to go, or males we should say, will tend to sit at the computer and watch pornography for maybe 3 days straight. And it's not about a physical reaction. It's about, by the way, nothing's taboo. That's another reason I'm wearing this, to show you that just because society or any of the people or factors or bodies that I mentioned earlier may tell us something is a taboo subject that we shouldn't discuss it out loud, it's not. So guys will sit at the computer, watch pornography for 3 days, and it's not about achieving an orgasm, and it's not about a physical reaction. It's about trying to find something in the mind that's going to be the next level. And it's hard to describe for those who don't experience it. I would say even for the researchers or the psychiatrists or whoever it is, psychologists that say they can explain it, unless you experience it, your words are kind of flat. Called parv, right? In Jewish tradition, we have milk, meat. People may have heard of that for kosher things, and then there's the neutral food, parv. So the psychiatrist's word and the researcher's word and the psychologist's word are all very parv, neutral. When you're talking to someone who's experienced it, then there's the connection. You understand what I'm saying. I understand what you're saying. So they're looking for that next level. It doesn't mean that guys don't go out there and also involve themselves with one or multiple partners over a period of time, like a period of a couple of days, or a couple. It's not restricted to women. It's just according to the statistics, and that's only as far as the research goes, and only as far as people are honest and willing to talk about it. Because society tells us we shouldn't, and that's unnecessary and unfortunate, and it hurts people. So, what do I find that is helpful? I find, first of all, if I'm in a manic state, and I recognize I'm in a manic state, I can tell friends. And as long as I'm in my judgment is not compromised, I'm good to go. I'll just be very productive. I'll be writing a lot. I might be producing content a lot. I might be, cleaning the house much better than I used to be, because my normal before the meds was always a level that they might describe as mania, which was not mania. Oh, by the way, I have bipolar schizophrenic. They call me schizoaffective, bipolar schizophrenic, whatever it is. That's the diagnosis, at least. 3,000 years ago, we were called, if we were hearing God, we were called prophets. 1,000 years ago, they call us oracles. 300 years ago, burn us at the stake. 50 years, 60 years ago, they lobotomized us. Now they just give us chemical lobotomy with these medicines called antipsychotics. So, wait, were we? Okay, so I was discussing manic state. So in the manic state, the problem is in the manic state, I might not recognize hypermania, hypersexuality coming on, because one of the problems with the meds that they put us on is it kills our libido. So when it comes on, the hypersexuality, it's kind of like a blast, like a heat wave, like a blast wave from an explosion. And all of a sudden we're there and we have our libido again and we feel alive, like, we're human beings. So we don't feel and then we don't feel the decline into loss of judgment. There's no problem with, in my personal opinion, there's no problem with someone feeling hypersexual at all. As long as they don't engage in behavior which they believe is counterproductive or detrimental to their well-being. If someone is hypersexual and with their partner, who cares? Really, who cares? I don't think that is a problem. I think the problem is with the loss of judgment and the problems that people engage in. So the married man, for example, or the boyfriend or whatever it is, might engage with a professional escort, and then he wouldn't have normally, or sleep with a woman and he wouldn't have normally, or another man and he wouldn't have normally, whatever it is. Okay, so there's this. I was just learning a little bit, and I'm not trying to Bible thump. This is not the Bible. Hey, so this is after I filmed that. I just want to make sure you understand I'm not pushing any religion. This deals with psychology, and it's a point of reference. It's to help understand. That's all. This is something that's called Rabbi Nachman's teachings, and I'm not trying to get you to do it. There's a point of reference that I want to make. He has a practice called hitbodedut, which is similar if people do yoga and meditation. It's a Jewish Hasidic practice that's mentioned that David, who wrote Psalms, as I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, that one we all know, that's David in Psalms. So he wrote Psalms, and most of it at least, or it depends who you talk to. And so David used to practice this, King David, this hitbodedut. And hitbodedut is an alone time, meaning an alone inward time, but also external, so you can talk to God. Now, let's leave God out of it for a second, because I know not everyone's into God. Let's just call it meditation time. In reference to the practice, it says, how can I talk to God if I don't feel good? Now, I meant leave God out of it for everyone's personal. How can I talk to God if I'm not feeling that I'm a good person, if I've done deeds that are bad? It says, even if you've done deeds that you believe are bad, there's some good that you've done. And all you have to do is think of one good that you've done, one good deed, one good action, and the good starts to overcome the bad. So when we're hypersexual, whether it's at the computer or whether the problem with hypersexuality is we're drawn to dangerous, forbidden, taboo, fetish, all these things for some reason that I don't know, and that as far as I know, researchers don't know. That's what another part of the drive is. So if someone's engaging in behavior or looking at things on the computer or whatever it is that they wouldn't normally do, then afterwards they're like, what did I do? How could I do this? This isn't me. This is the disorder. This is something I've experienced. This is whatever the sickness, whatever they're calling it. Hey, so I'm still working on this video and it's getting dark out. I'm sitting outside. I want to make a point here. Everyone's sexual preference or sexual behavior or sexual enjoyments or fetishes or whatever they like is fine. No one has to justify themselves to anyone else. And by what I said there, I was speaking to one who looks at what he wouldn't or she wouldn't or they wouldn't normally do, and then they're being hard on themselves. So if one's normal thing is leather, that's perfectly fine. If another's normal thing is X, and another's is Y, and another's is Z, I'm not trying to say that just because someone's into something, they have a problem. It's not my place to judge. Afterwards, when we're coming back to ourselves, you say, look, I do good things, okay? I helped out my buddy. I helped him move. There was an old lady crossing the street. I helped her cross the street. I give charity, whatever it is. Even poor people in the Jewish tradition, we still have to give charity. So if I have, $10 to my name, I can still give, $1 to another poor person. So, can you find one thing good? Yeah, everyone can. absolutely everybody can find one thing of good in their life that they've done, a good deed, a good action. Have you ever respected your parents? Have you ever respected another human being? Have you ever respected yourself? There's always good. Once you have that good, the good starts to overcome the bad. Because inherently we're all good. Number two, if you get to a point where you feel like you're unable to go forward, and I don't mean necessarily suicidal, but go forward with yourself, meaning I don't feel that I can evaluate myself right now. I'm just too caught up in what I consider to be the bad behavior that I engaged in. Let's get rid of the adjectives. I can't move forward in evaluating myself because I'm caught in the behavior. Why are you caught in the behavior? Because I'm judging myself. Why? Because of the standards that have been imprinted upon me by society, media, psychiatry, psychology, especially psychiatry and psychology, which do us a lot of damage. And I'm not telling you to stop seeing your psychiatrist or your psychologist or stop taking your meds. But these all have imprints on us. So religion as well. All these different things have imprints on us. So how do we get away from the imprint? For me personally, like if I were to go by this book and I were in that situation, I would simply say, God help me. And I could say it over and over again. God help me, 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 God help me. Now if I'm in my schizophrenic way and I'm hearing God and talking to God, there's less chance that I'd be in the hypersexual way. That's never actually, they've never crossed. And I've had interactions with the voice I know as God that are incredibly positive, funny, terrifying, all of the above. So, one thing, help me. And if it's not God, it's a friend. Just text a buddy. I've been manic. I'm hypersexual right now. I need some help. Just in some encouragement. I just need a helping word, something like that. Or can you pick me up so we can go out and get a burger? I just need to take my mind off this. When you're alone, it's very difficult. And when you're alone, you're driven not to be alone in these states. So if I'm driven not to be alone and I'm hypersexual, what am I doing? I'm going out to the bar. I'm going out to, whatever the things people do, they're doing. So those two things. And the third is that this is a normal thing. Why? Because we're people and it's normal. The reason they call us abnormal and that it's not normal is because of the percentages. So I think it's something like 1% of the population is schizophrenic, and something like up to 2.7 has bipolar, what they call bipolar disorder. Let's not forget David, King Solomon, King David, many heroes from the Bible would be described today as bipolar or manic depressive, and they would all be schizophrenics. Okay, so if anyone ever gives you a hard time, just say, have fun when you go to church, because the text that your rabbi or your preacher or your imam are reading were written by people who today would be considered like me, okay? And we know that they also encountered problems with the sexual pull. It may not be discussed, but we know we have it in our text. We read this. I'm not by the way, a religious person. I don't keep Shabbat. I just do what I do, and I'm not observant. I'm very spiritual. I shouldn't say very spiritual. I'm spiritual. So those are the three things. We're not doing it. Just keep in mind, you haven't done anything wrong in the sense that you can blame yourself for in that state of mind. The trick is to build gates, build fences around ourselves so that we can protect ourselves in the future. All right. So this was just one guy who's gone through it, talking to anyone who needs to hear about it, and I'm sure your medical or psychological or whatever professional has more information than I do, and maybe a friend does too, or maybe you just get online and read, that's it. I hope this was helpful. I'm trying to say, don't feel like there's a stigma, don't feel like there's a taboo, even though there is, and you're not guilty. Okay, I'm not guilty, you're not guilty, we're not guilty. We just got to remember to do our best. Okay, that's it.